Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you're all having an amazing day, morning, or evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me, and I hope you love the content. So, today I'm just going to talk about the current political climate and the current astrology and how I happen to be handling it all right now. Um, If this content resonates with you, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell, or even donate. Namaste. It's very much appreciated. So, like I said, I'd like to touch on the current political climate, especially in the United States. That's where I happen to be from. I'm in California in particular. Um, So yeah, there have been a lot of protests recently. There's been a lot of political turmoil, if you will, lately of all kinds. I'm sure if you're looking at the news, paying attention to all that right now, you're well aware, especially the tariffs. Yikes. Gonna jack up the prices of everything and yeah, as if things weren't bad enough already. Anywho, yeah, there's been a lot of recent protests. Particularly, what comes to mind to me in a really powerful way is the April 5th protests. And in particular, the wide ranging nature of it and the broad, broad grassroots support for it, even across the whole country. It's been beautiful and powerful and amazing to see. Um, Particularly including thousands on Capitol Hill in Utah, of all places, a red state. Um, and I also saw a YouTube post about a crowd of about 50 in a small West Virginia town getting mostly positive reception slash response from passersby on April 5th during the hands off all 50 states protest. And as I've mentioned before in recent videos, Neptune has moved into Aries. So we are moving into that spiritual warrior energy, if you will. Um, people people are very energized and on fire to um, take action in ways that accord and align with their highest beliefs. Um, yeah, and how I'm navigating this right now, well, like, even as I try to purge thoughts about this current regime and what it's doing from my mind and for my own inner peace, and even as I ask for help from my angels with releasing it, releasing it overnight. I know that's wishful thinking, but releasing it overnight so I can wake up with a clear mind, free from worry and disruptive thoughts about this regime and what it's doing. I end up waking up on the morning after April 5th, having just had dreams about protesting and expressing my feelings, only dreams that seem to reflect both the collective anger and my own anger at the situation. And mind you, it is rare for me to have dreams that I remember upon waking. So, I mean, I feel like something big is going on and things will soon be at a boiling point and are likely to come to a head for better or for worse, but hopefully for the best, for the collective good and the betterment for of us all. Um And I'd just like to talk briefly about the difference between righteous anger and small egoistic anger and the difference between vibrations. So, in the spirituality community, especially like the new agey spirituality community, there is kind of a misconception about anger, right? Um, Anger is told to be, a low vibration, bad energy type of thing. And I'd say usually in day to day, like interpersonal relationships, that kind of thing, that can definitely be the case. That usually is the case. Anger comes from, a small egoistic place. Um, it comes from a small, weak, wounded part of ourselves. You know, it's operating out of fear, ignorance, insecurity, right? Usually. But then there's the difference, right? Righteous anger. So, what do I mean by righteous anger? Meaning anger about indignations, being indignified about the loss of one's rights, one's dignity as a human being, also having um, your well-being, your economic, financial well-being put into question, right? Um, and standing up for yourself and standing up for your community, right? That is the best form of anger, right? That's the best and highest form of anger. And I'd say that comes from a place of inner power and inner strength. And it comes from a place of love for oneself and love for one's family, friends, community. And I'd argue that is very much a high vibration, good, positive energy type of thing, especially if it's channeled in the right ways. If it's channeled into positive action, uniting with one's community and making change, marching in the streets, contacting your representatives, doing all that's in your power to change the situation for the better, right? I'd say that is such a beautiful expression of righteous anger. So, on that note, I'd like to refer to an amazing quote by Martin Luther King Jr. about nonviolence, civil disobedience, and positive versus negative peace, and kind of get his take on this reality, this dichotomy of anger versus righteous anger, and how that ties into, you know, civil disobedience and positive versus negative peace. Like, I feel that's so relevant right now at this moment. So, what did he say? He said, we must come to see that the end we seek is a society at peace with itself, a society that can live with its conscience. And also, true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. So, for Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. King, negative peace refers to the absence of violence or the mere lack of conflict. He contrasted this with positive peace, which is defined by the presence of justice and the equitable distribution of resources. King believed that a true and lasting peace requires addressing the root causes of conflict, not just suppressing its outward manifestations. So, negative peace is the absence of violence, right? This is the most basic form of peace, where there's no physical conflict or war. It's about maintaining order and avoiding direct violence, but it doesn't necessarily address the underlying inequalities or injustices that could lead to future conflict. Positive peace, on the other hand, is the presence of justice. This is a deeper, more transformative form of peace that goes beyond the absence of violence. It's characterized by justice, fairness, and the equitable distribution of resources, which addresses the root cause of conflict and creates a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. King argued that true peace requires not only the absence of violence, but also the presence of justice. He criticized those who prioritized order over order over justice, rather, arguing that a society built on inequality and injustice is not a truly peaceful society. In essence, King's concept of negative peace is a necessary but insufficient condition for a lasting and just peace. While the absence of violence is important, it's not enough to create a society where everyone can live with dignity and freedom. True peace requires addressing the underlying causes of conflict, which often involve inequality and injustice. All right, back to how I'm currently feeling about this current political moment. Personally, I've transcended fear about what's going on and have moved into anger, moved into that righteous anger. And as a sidereal Leo sun and Leo ascendant and Venus in Leo, I've got a lot of strong fire placements that I wasn't aware of before, and I'll get more into sidereal astrology in depth in a future video very soon, because it's a big shift in how I see and experience astrology and even how I see myself. And I also have Mars in Virgo, as well as the moon in Virgo, but close to Libra. And especially with Neptune in Aries, even as a relatively stoic, spiritual person who strives to create inner peace and remain peaceful, calm, balanced, and grounded as much as possible, and who also tries to mostly stay away from news and political content, especially things I might find triggering, and who has been cutting way back on social media in general, I still can't help but feel the grief and anger of the collective, as well as my own inner anger at what this regime is doing and the injustices it is perpetrating, bubbling up within me. Most of the time, it just feels like a constant simmer sitting on the back burner, in the back of my mind, but from time to time it bubbles up into a frothing, roiling boil. As someone who's very keen on mindfulness and nonviolence, I try my very best to contain it and channel it in helpful and productive ways. I also know I've talked a big game about accepting what I cannot change, nor what I cannot control, nor control, and political political matters are certainly outside of the realm of my personal control. So I have indeed been trying to free my mind of worry over what I can't change nor control the best I can, and instead focus to a greater extent on what I can control here in my personal life, and on what's going on in my personal life that I can't accept, but I can control and I can change and do something about. Now, I can't say much for what I can do politically. I'm just one person, but I know that if we join forces and work together, we, the people, the collective, we do have the capability to change what we cannot accept. I haven't been as politically active as maybe I should be, partially because of lack of free time outside of work, um, and partially because of my own partner asking me to take a step back and not bring it up as much, but also because of my own arguably selfish desire to stay away from potentially upsetting or triggering news and political content as much as I can for my own sanity and focus on self care and cultivating inner peace, which is an ongoing challenge in times like these. This partial avoidance hasn't been about fear, but rather about protecting my energy. But as a poignant post on Threads pointed out, you cannot meditate, sage, or pray away fascism. I'm not saying your energy doesn't help in a subtle way, and it might help you personally feel better for a time, and certainly self care is necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup. But only real action out in the material world will make a real difference. I have transcended both the fear of the past and the recent avoidance and moved on to an actionable, righteous anger. But I will continue to move forward and take action when and where I can, and then step aside every day in order to ground myself and protect my energy. I have been protesting here and there, contacting my representatives and here and there, and certainly raising my voice online from time to time. Like I said, I wish I could do more, but even if I could, politics really isn't a big passion of mine. And I get involved with politics when I can, not because I enjoy it, but out of necessity and out of survival and out of love and survival for my community, right? Um, I encourage you all to continue to or begin to safely stand up and speak out and rise up non-violently with your community and the collective, but also take a time out and take care of your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. But just know that righteous anger at what's going on that is channeled in healthy and constructive expression is not only normal, healthy, valid, and justified, it is exactly what's called for in times like these. May you all have the serenity to accept the things you cannot change. Have the courage to change the things that you cannot accept. Have the wisdom to know the difference. And may you have the courage and fortitude to unify with your community and the collective to change the bigger things that we collectively cannot accept. Namaste. Stay safe and know that you are loved. Go in peace and blessed be.